It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Smooth and Savvy is joined by some of the hottest talent in the entertainment industry, from musicians to authors and all those in between. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Smooth and Savvy himself, Douglas Coleman.
Well, hello. How are you? Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. It's me, Douglas Coleman. Nice to have you with us. Hope you're having a good day or a good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are. We've got 2 interviews today and a song. First interview is with Neville Johnson, who is an entertainment attorney from LA. His notable client lists includes the Beach Boys, Fleetwood Mac, The Motels, Jane's Addiction, as well as actors Richard Dreyfuss, Jack Klugman, Mike Connors, and the estate of John Lennon, amongst others. He's also a musician who performs under the name Trevor McShane, and he's also an author who has written a book of poems called What Took You So Long? So he will be up first, followed by actor and model Ricky Ryba, spelled R-Y-B-A. Interesting story about Ricky. He's a very busy guy, a very busy actor, model, and we had been trying to hook up a couple of times to do the interview. Anyways, he finally scheduled with me, and he really didn't have time to do the interview, but he was nice enough to commit to it. He was officiating his sister's wedding, so he was at the function hall when he called in to do the interview. There is a bit of background noise in spots. You can hear sort of dishes clanking and silverware rattling. They were setting up the reception area for the wedding reception. So I really want to thank Ricky for taking time out of his very busy schedule to come onto the show and do the interview. Before we get to the interviews, we have a song. This is another one from the Music X-Ray submissions. I'm finally getting through my backlog of music submissions from Music X-Ray. Thank you to everybody who has submitted. I appreciate it. We're doing fairly well with the submissions. About 50%. 50% of them are getting played, and the other 50% just don't quite make the grade. But I think that's pretty good. I've heard other people with radio stations who have said, it's like 90% of what they get that they don't play or don't consider, right for their station. So I think we're doing fairly well with that. Okay, so anyways, without further ado, the song that we're going to play today is by Whitney Tai, spelled T-A-I, and the song is called Falling. So we're going to play the song first, and then straight into the interviews.
Shore, tipping back and forth, hearts are to lose.
Okay, please welcome Neville Johnson. Hi, Neville. How are you?
Very, very good, and thank you.
Well, good. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Your bio is pretty spectacular. You've got all kinds of things on here. You're a musician, you're a poet, and you're also an entertainment industry attorney, one of the top ones in Hollywood. I wanted to ask you about that first, and then we can get into your music and to your poetry, your book. What exactly is the function of an entertainment attorney, and how is that different from a manager of a band?
Well, there's basically two kinds of work you do in entertainment law. It's negotiation and transactional work, or alternately litigation. I've done a lot of both. My focus now is more in the litigation arena, and typically I'm representing talent, the so-called little guys, against the movie studios or record companies, saying where's the money, or problems between people as to who owns what, or whether a project was stolen, there's copyright infringement, things like that. You know, a manager of a band is mommy and daddy to a group, and supervises and coordinates all of the aspects of a performing artist, which is liaising with talent agents, seeing that there's adequate publicity, coordinating with the attorney, making sure that music publishing monies are being collected and properly administered, and coordinating with the record company to see that there's adequate promotion overall. So it's all those, and then being the person who has to tell the artist, you know, maybe you could do a better job on this, or you better be nice to this person, etc. That's generally speaking what a personal manager does overall, and that's not really what a lawyer is doing on a day-to-day basis.
Potentially, you could have represented Robert Plant and Jimmy Page in that thing with Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, I watched that case closely, and I think it was a close call, because if you listen to the two songs together, they're very similar, but I wasn't at the trial, and it may have been that they were just out-lawyered, the plaintiffs. Well,
the two songs are similar, but, you know, it's my understanding that you can't really copyright a chord progression.
That's not true. You can copyright a chord progression. The question is, you just can't steal someone else's chord progression. It's a common misconception that, you know, there are certain things that are like that they can't be copied. And the big example is that I could come up with, Mary Had a Little Lamb. And if I did it on my own, I could probably copyright that and maybe prevent somebody else from using it if they heard my version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. So it's on a case-by-case basis.
I think the industry today is going to set itself up for a lot more of that, because so much of what is being put out there is music that uses samples. I know samples have to be cleared in order to use them directly, but there seems to be, you know, where people are using other people's songs more and more rather than and I don't know if it's just the climate of people not being able to write something original, or if it's just the way music is put together these days.
We get presented on a weekly basis probably with cases involving copyright infringement. I can tell you that I have made a lot of money suing for the unauthorized use of samples, and I've also done very well for clients who had their copyrights infringed overall. But the vast majority of cases we turn down. Here are the two ingredients, what you have to show to win on a copyright case. You have to show something called access, meaning somehow you heard my material, and then I have to show substantial similarity. So those are the two key questions. In the case of the Spirit and Led Zeppelin, they said, we never heard the Spirit song, even though the Spirit song was on albums, and Jimmy Page owned one of those albums, and there was a testimony that they performed on the same gigs. Okay, you know, the jury bought what Zeppelin had to say, and that's the way it goes. But look, I will tell you this, there's a lot of theft going on. And not just in music, but also in stealing ideas for television show and things like that. That's what the currency is in the entertainment business, are good tunes, good melodies, and good ideas for shows and movies.
You think there's more of it now, with everything being digital and very easy to copy, than it was before?
No, I just think that this is a business where there's a lot of
just the nature of the business, you know.
Yeah, I mean but look, American business, insurance, Volkswagens, banks, you name it. I mean, we got big problems all over our country, and that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of lawyers are fully employed in the entertainment business here.
I wanted to ask you too. You also are a musician, and you play under the name Trevor McShane. Were you a musician before you became a lawyer? Was that something you were always doing, or did you pick up music after becoming a lawyer?
I started playing guitar when I was about 20, and I was a junior in college. I never had any desire or intent to become a professional musician. I always wanted to be a lawyer. However, I always loved music, and in college I went to UC Berkeley. I was the music critic there, and I've been a big fan of music all my life. Then when about 20 years later, I'd been, just basically playing in my room. I got invited to go and recorded a music studio and did original work, and I loved it. And I've been playing, basically professionally for the last 20 years. All my band members are full-time professional musicians, so I've got a really good group behind me.
What is the genre of the music you're doing?
I call it folk, rock, country, pop. And it's a little bit of everything. I get compared with Mark Knopfler, Lou Reed, Bob Dylan, Eagles, Leonard Cohen.
Now, you're on your 7th album, so you've been doing this for some time, I guess, yeah?
Yeah, you can go on the internet on YouTube and see various videos of me performing or some of these songs. Okay,
so now you've decided to write a book, or you did write a book, called What Took You So Long? And this is a collection of poems that you've written?
It is. It's 167 love poems to my wife.
I wanted to talk a little bit about marriage, people getting together, that sometimes is difficult. And I noticed that particularly amongst entertainers, musicians, and actors, there seems to be a problem with when two of them get together. And I don't know if it's because people are so obsessed with their career that they put all the priority into their career and the marriage or the relationship takes a back seat, or if it's just egos. I've known musicians that have hooked up with each other and they never seem to work out because they're always sort of competing with each other on one level or another. I know that successful marriage requires sacrifice and commitment. On your bio, it said that your career and everything was going strong, but your love life was suffering. Was that primarily because of your focus, that you were all into the career and not really paying attention to your relationship as much?
That's one reason. I was a little too dedicated to, I think, my career. Also, I say that when the opportunity strikes, you need to move on it. You can only be lackadaisical for so long or you're going to lose the opportunity. So I think to that extent, I also suffered.
The wife that you wrote all the poetry about, is this your first wife?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so you didn't get married until probably a bit later in your life, yeah?
I got married at the age of 56.
Wow. Oh, very good. How did you guys meet?
My wife, Cindy, is an attorney, and we both went to Southwestern Law School here in Los Angeles. They had a meet the new dean of the entertainment section, and she was getting a graduate advanced degree in entertainment law, and a professor said here to her, you should talk to this entertainment lawyer, and she did. And then she made a point to ask me to help her with her schoolwork, and that didn't cause me to ask her out, so she just asked me out, and I went out, and by the second date I said, this is the gal for me.
One of your bullet points on your bio says, what is one of the things that you think couples can do to improve their relationship, whether dating or married? What do you find?
I think that humor is arguably the most important thing in a relationship besides trust. And so I am trying to make my wife laugh all the time, and she's trying to do the same thing for me. I also think that it's great if you can both you have to be interested in a lot of the same things. And so fortunately, she likes to do what I like to do most of the time, but also you got to give them freedom as well. And so she allows me to spread my wings creatively and aesthetically, and she helps me out in promoting it and all the rest of that stuff. And bottom line is just to get along and to be, I think, respect is terribly important. And of course, I get called on it when I'm mean or whatever you want to say. Let's say, not adequately conciliatory in a particular situation. So forgiveness also is terribly important. We all have our problems, and I say that I don't think there's a couple in the world that doesn't quarrel. And that's okay. Just don't take it personally.
It's healthy sometimes, because I think people will keep a lot of the stuff inside, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And I think eventually it's going to come out. Where people get into problems is when they pick the wrong battle. They pick the real little, I don't like the way you park the car in the driveway, rather than picking something more significant. Sometimes it's a lot about miscommunication. People have baggage from previous marriages and previous relationships, and it all well, you're just acting like my ex-husband. You get those,
I think the key to it is to learn how to argue, if you're going to call it that, in a gentle personly fashion. And so one of the big things that judges just loathe are when the lawyers are going at it with each other. And so the whole key, I think, as much as possible, is to be as unemotional as possible and rational as you're working through particular issues. Of course, life would be boring if people didn't have different ideas about things, But you're right. You shouldn't get nuts about why didn't you make that left turn or, things like that.
And it's the little things that it seems like as you get into your marriage longer. Now, I've been married for 11 years now. That, the big stuff we settled through the first and second year, the trial period, the probationary period, if you will. And now that we're getting into 11 years, it seems like it's the little stuff that for some reason, those are the ones that come up. And I got to be careful with that for myself, because you can get somebody who's in the wrong mood or in a bad mood at that particular time. And if you bring up the way that they organize the spoons in the drawer, it'll just set them on fire. I need to be a little bit careful. That's one of the...
Well, I'll just say I let a lot of things slide now. I've learned. It just don't. Whatever you want, honey. Including, this is what you're going to wear today. Okay, fine. I'm wearing it.
What inspired you to write the book, the poetry? Was this just Go ahead.
This is not my first book. My first book was, I wrote the authorized biography of John Wooden of UCLA, the greatest coach in the history of athletics, which was a bestseller. What this is a result of is that one of my avocations when I have downtime is to write poetry, and I write about mostly about love, but I culled from the last 13 years poems that I had been writing about Cindy, and thought this would be a really neat book to come out of. It's all positive stuff. In other words, I say that there are 4 kinds of poems or songs in the world. I want the girl, I have the girl, I miss the girl, and what I call car songs, which are about interview shows on the radio, peace in the world, avocados in Argentina, anything that's non-romantic love. So these are all I have the girl songs, and I just thought, why not? Why not celebrate when everything is going good?
Are any of these poems, have they transferred over to song lyrics?
Yeah, a number of the songs in the book are a number of poems in the book are lyrics to songs I've written.
What is next for you now? I mean, it seems like you've done just about everything.
Well, in 2 nights I'll be opening for the legendary Mitch Ryder, who did Devil with a Blue Dress at probably the best club in L.A. I'll be doing that for fun. I've written a novel. I wrote a novel that is being re-edited and coming out again. It's a romantic love story, and with it there's a soundtrack to it that was my first album, and that'll be out later in the year. I have a very, very busy life as an attorney, helping helping others in their issues, and we like to travel, and I'm recording as we speak. I just finished an album of spiritual songs, 9 of which are new original spiritual songs and 3 covers. And then I have a new album coming out that I recorded in North Carolina, produced by Don Dixon, who did REM, The Smithereens, Marshall Crenshaw, Joan Armatrading, and other great musicians. And I'll be putting those out as well.
Well, Neville, we are out of time. I want to thank you for coming on. Where is your book available? On Amazon? And do you have a website?
Yeah, the book is called What Took You So Long. You can get it on Amazon.
Well, I've got your book that your publicist sent to me. Thank you very much. I will get to it. I've got a whole stack of books here from various artists and authors that have been on the show. So I'm doing them in order, the order that I've received them. And the stack is going down slowly. Do you have a website, like a personal website, or one that you want to give out that people can look at you? And
well, there's a website for Trevor McShane you can go to. You can also Facebook friend, Trevor McShane. Neville Johnson, I'm on Facebook. I take on some new friends overall. And then there's my law practice, Neville Johnson. Go to Johnson & Johnson LLP Law.com, and you can learn all about my law practice. So.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Douglas. I appreciate it, too.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on The Douglas Coleman Show.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Okay, please welcome Ricky Ryba. Hi, Ricky. How are you?
Hi, Douglas. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I wanted to say first off that I really liked your bio that you sent in. You know, we get lots of bios and people sending stuff in to submit to the show. And yours really caught my eye because of the way you wrote it. It was very simple. It was like the whole thing was bullet pointed. You had just sentences, I did this, I did that, I was in the high school play, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it was straight, but it was to the point, where so many of these things that I get are like a bunch of what I call glittering generalities. People like to fluff up their bio with things like, I'm a happy and inspired person. You know, and
aren't we all though?
Yeah, okay, well that's great. You know, that's lovely, but what can I do with that? You know?
Exactly.
There's absolutely nothing I can do with that. So I really liked your bio, the way it's set up.
One of the first things that I learned, one of the first days in the military, my drill instructor taught us how to kiss. And we were all like, you know, shaking our heads and looking really weird at each other. Like, what? He's going to teach us how to kiss? This is the military. What are you talking about? And he wrote the acronym up on the board, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And so from day one, he was just like, don't do more than you have to. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just be straightforward, precise, get your message across, and be done with it and move on. I think that's what showed through in that bio that I gave you.
It really was great. And it was different. Like I said, I've never had anybody submit one like this. I've had all kinds of bios. But this one...
Well, good. Maybe the people that are listening will remember that if they ever try to get on your show.
Yeah, we should post it actually on the website and say, here's how to write a good bio if you want.
Here's an example. Exactly, yeah. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm the template for what you're looking for. That's
absolutely.
Cool.
The first thing that was on here that I wanted to bring up, which I thought was sort of funny, was it said, my entire family learned my mother was pregnant the day she had me. And I had to laugh about that one because, I mean, did she do that great of a job hiding it, or was she just not seen?
Well, when she, it's a complicated story, but basically my mom was friends with this kid down the street. They grew up together. The brothers and sisters played together. And after high school, they met up at a party. They hooked up. She got pregnant, and they weren't together. And she had already had a daughter that's 4 years older than me with another man that she had left. And so she decided that she was going to hide the pregnancy from everybody. So when she started showing, she moved out. She cursed everybody to high hell, and everyone kind of left my mom alone and didn't know what was going on. They're like, she's going through something. She's going to work it out. And then my grandparents got a phone call and said it was her roommate. And her roommate had called and said, hey, I'm not sure I'm supposed to tell you this, but your daughter's at the hospital. And so my grandparents went to the hospital, and they're like, "We're here to see Kathy," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, Kathy's in the labor and delivery room," and they're like, "No, she's not." And sure enough, they walked in there, and there's my mom in the labor and delivery room, and there's me, and my grandparents were completely shocked and stunned. My mom was just trying to hide the pregnancy, and she was going to secretly give me up for adoption, which she did.
And then it says that she took you back a few weeks later.
Yeah, a couple weeks later, my grandparents were just completely, in disbelief and shocked, and they had a heart-to-heart conversation with my mom, and they're like, "I don't care what you're going through or the struggles, anything, if it's financial or emotional, whatever, that's our grandson, that's your son. We're going to do whatever it takes to help support you. You need to go back and get your son." So, they said, "We'll help you along the way raising this kid." And so with that support from my grandparents, my mom decided to change her mind and come back and get me.
These were her parents, I assume.
Yes. My
Father.
dad, my real
Go
dad,
ahead.
didn't know that I was in this world, didn't know he had a son until I was about 8 years old when my mom wrote him a letter.
This was just like a casual thing, and then the pregnancy happened, and your father was just nowhere around. He didn't know about it.
He didn't know. He had no idea until they weren't together. They weren't in a relationship. It was a one-time thing at a party, and he didn't really know until I was 8 years old, and it was just a letter, and he wasn't entirely sure if he was the father or not. But at the same time, he didn't fully commit to trying to find out the truth or not until I was about 17, and then he contacted my mom, and he was like, "I'm ready to meet this kid and see if this kid is really mine."
So how do you get on with your father now?
When I heard the story about what happened, about how I was conceived, and it was sort of my mom's fault for not telling my dad right away. And then it was sort of my dad's fault for not doing anything once he found out that information. And so I was like, you know what? They're kind of both at fault. Let's just clean slate it. And then, when I meet my dad, I walked in with an open opinion in mind and just said, I'm going to judge you based off of what you show me from this day forward, not from what happened in the past. Let's just start one day at a time. And we started off as friends, and then we kind of worked our way into becoming best friends. And, now he's my dad, he's my daddy-o, and we talk every single day. We have a really great relationship.
Well, I think that's very commendable of you to sort of start the relationship from the very beginning, from the time you met, rather than bringing along the baggage, perhaps, of what happened before.
Yeah, looking back on it, I was 17 years old when I met him, and I handled that really in a really mature way. And I don't know many 17-year-olds that would sort of do that.
No, but I think a lot of 17-year-olds would have a lot of resentment, and
yeah,
you threw me away, you didn't care about me, all that kind of stuff would be.
I was ready. This is funny. I was ready to punch him in the face or something if he ever said anything disrespectful or was a jerk to me. I was like, I don't care who this guy is. If he says something out of line, disrespectful to me or my mother or my family, I'll punch him right in the mouth. So it was weird. Like I'm walking in with open arms, but actually at the same time, I might punch you. Who knows?
So during high school, it looks like you played football and you were doing drama as well, right? Kind of an interesting combination.
Played sports my whole life: football, baseball, track, wrestling, and my junior year of high school, it was baseball season, and I wasn't getting along with the coach. I wasn't really in love with baseball anymore, and what's the point of doing it if you don't enjoy it? And so I quit, which was very shocking to my family and to me. But I made that decision. I was like, you know what? I want to do something else. I'm not happy with this. And so it allowed another door to open. And these cute girls in high school that I was friends with asked me to try out for the high school musical because they knew I could sing, they knew I could dance. And so it was really exciting, and I got the lead first time I ever tried out.
What was the play? Do you remember?
Oh, we did Footloose, so I was Kevin Bacon's character.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So what made you decide to go into the U.S. Naval Academy? How did that transition?
When I was applying to colleges and looking at different colleges, I didn't know if I wanted to go to a Division I school, a D2, D3. Did I want to play football or track? What did I want to major in? What did I want to do for the rest of my life? Nothing was clicking. I didn't know if I wanted to go to a big school, a small school. It's a huge decision to make at 17 years old. I just wasn't sure, and I just knew that something was going to feel right when I came across it, and then nothing had yet. And my mom, she pulled me aside and she said, what about the military schools? What about the military academies? And I laughed at her because when I was little and I was getting into a lot of trouble, she threatened to send me to military school.
Yeah, that's always a good threat.
I was so scared of going there. And then all of a sudden, I looked into the Naval Academy. I looked into West Point, the Air Force Academy. And I'm like, you know what? This is actually speaking to my soul right now. I feel like I have a connection with this more than anything. I was a leader in sports. I was a leader amongst my friends. I want to protect my family. I want to protect my country. So, what better way to do all of that than to go to the military academies?
So at that point in your life, the drama bug hadn't bitten yet.
It had. I just didn't know which one was going to mean more to me in my life. So, I was interested in the academies. I was looking into that. I was applying to that, but it's really tough to get in. I think only 8 or 10% of the applicants in the entire country get accepted. So I was like, I really would like to go here, but it's going to be really tough. I'm not sure. And then I had my experience with the musicals, and I was like, man, this is amazing. I loved acting and performing and singing, and I want to look into, this world and see what this is about. And so I cut a deal with my mom at the end of my junior year, and she and I agreed that if I didn't get accepted to the Naval Academy, I would either enlist in the military and then keep trying for the Naval Academy, or we would move to Hollywood together and I would pursue acting. I honestly I was very intimidated by the whole Hollywood thing. I knew I had some funny charisma and talent, but I didn't know if I could make it in Hollywood for real. I didn't know anybody that did. I ended up getting accepted to the Naval Academy, and that's the route I chose and went.
Are you a Gemini?
I'm actually a Libra.
Oh, okay. No, because the idea of Naval Academy or Hollywood, it's definitely like one side of the brain and the other. And I know lots of Geminis with the twin things that they have this kind of split personality where some of them can be very analytical and other side can be very creative. Yeah. So I didn't know if you had that or not.
See that.
Now, your mother passed away 5 years ago. She was only 50 years old. That's very sad. Yeah. That's young. And your father is currently battling cancer. How is he doing with that?
He is, so far, he's in remission. He's, I think 2 years now of cancer-free, which is good. But the 5-year mark is the biggest one.
Oh, that's good.
And, it was just real scary. I lost my mom, and then probably 7 months later, my dad got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And then it elevated to stage 4 as they were doing more tests and surgeries. And he had to do chemo and radiation. And one of the things that I learned about cancer is that people often say, I battled cancer, or she battled cancer and won, or she battled cancer and lost. And I didn't understand fully what that meant until I had, my dad go through it. It really is a battle. You have to want to fight to live every single day. He was driving to work, putting in a full work day, then driving an hour to get chemo and radiation done. And then he was periodically throwing up on the way home. And he was doing that every single day. He lost way too much weight. He wasn't eating. He lost his appetite. So they had to put a food port in his stomach. So he was feeding himself through a tube in his stomach for a couple of months. It got really scary. He's a couple years into remission right now. So far so good. But another thing that I didn't fully appreciate or understand was he would tell me he's going in for a cancer test, just a follow-up test. And I'm like, all right, cool. Just let me know how it goes or whatever. Keep me posted. As soon as he knows that he has a cancer test coming up, his anxiety starts spiking. He starts getting really nervous, and because these tests could completely change his life. They could say the cancer's back, and now you have 3 weeks to live, right. Or the cancer's back, and you got to do chemo and radiation again. And I didn't really understand that until I talked to another cancer survivor, and they said, "Hey, listen, when your dad's going for those follow-up tests, treat that as just as important and as careful as he did with the previous test when he just found out he got cancer, because it's all really scary to him."
Well, good luck to him. I hope he comes through this. Let's talk a little bit about your time in the Navy. You were in for how many years?
There's a little ditty that they say in the military. You're supposed to respond by saying, "All me bloomin' life, sir. Me mother was a mermaid, me father was King Neptune. I was born on the crest of a wave and rocked in the cradle of the deep. Seaweed and barnacle are me clothes." And it goes on and on. I always say that for fun when people ask me. But that's just like a flashback to boot camp when they would test you and make you say all kinds of stupid things throughout the day. I enlisted in 2003, but then I found out I got picked up for the Naval Academy. I graduated in 2008, and then I was an active duty naval officer until 2015, and I'm in the inactive reserves now as a lieutenant.
So you were on 2 different warships, and
Yes.
you were in 25 different countries. What was your favorite country that you visited?
You know, honestly, it depends on the topic. You know, I think I had the most fun in Greece. I really liked the area. It was a lot of fun. I also really enjoyed Spain. We had a blast in Italy. Bulgaria was surprisingly really fun. The women there were very beautiful. Yeah, each place had its its pros, and there was a few cons. But I think Greece was one of my favorites overall. I set up a huge ship-wide paintball tournament for a couple of days, and we just had the time of our lives there. It was so much fun.
I don't suppose you want to mention what was the worst country you went to.
There were 2 countries that I was not a particular fan of. Albania was very scary, and Mauritania on the west coast of Africa was also extremely scary. There was a lot of terrorist activities, and they regulated us from kind of doing anything fun or going anywhere. And then we got sent back to our ship because the threat level was too high.
That was in Mauritania or in Albania?
Mauritania was that one, but Albania was just scary and intimidating. When we went out in town, we're all trying to have fun and go out to the bars and drink, and see a bunch of girls were out dancing with the girls and stuff, and then all of a sudden we got surrounded by dozens of Albanians, and they threatened us in broken English, like, "I'll kill you dead, leave girls away," and we're like, "What?" So we all just kind of left really scared because they were not messing around. They don't like to dance with their women. They want their women to dance in the middle of the bar, and then they hang out with their buddies drinking. And, of course, us Americans, we've been on a ship for a while. We want to go dance with some pretty girls. And they didn't like that at all. It was just a very, I'm sure there were some nicer parts that we didn't go to that we could have experienced if we were there longer. But our general experience wasn't that positive.
So while you were doing all of this, was there any one particular thing that clicked into your head that you said, you know what, I'm going to start pursuing acting? Was there something that happened that triggered that?
Yeah, actually. So I went to the Naval Academy with this guy named Rob Mays. And Rob and I played football together. We were friends. And at the end of our freshman year, he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Ricky, good luck with your military career. I'm out of here." I said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "I did a little bit of acting before the Naval Academy, and I want to go to Hollywood and try that out." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is something that I was secretly thinking about doing." And so I was like, "Hey man, good luck. I really hope you make it." I was worried for him and sort of doubted if he could make it or not, because I also doubted myself. And, a lot of times people will sort of squash your dreams because they have their own doubts. They can't do it, so why can you, sort of thing. And
Right.
so I wished him luck, but I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do it or not. Fast forward to my second deployment, we were in Greece, and we stopped at there's a U.S. Navy base in Greece. I was in the movie section, catching up on movies that I had missed, and I see this movie of this guy and this girl staring at each other on the cover, and I'm like, man, this looks like my buddy Rob Mays, who I went to the Naval Academy with. I flip over the DVD, and it says starring Rob Mays, and my jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe it. I bought the movie, brought it back to my ship, watched it, and I was like, he's really doing it. He was the first person in my life that I actually knew, that I was friends with. I was on the same path, and he deviated, and he was able to succeed in a new career. He's on the cover of a DVD. That's amazing. I'm in Greece. This is incredible. So while I was on deployment, you have a lot of time to think about life, your actions that you have made and decisions you've made and the things that you want to do, that whole acting bug sort of kind of bit me again, and that fire got reignited. And so as soon as I got back from my deployment, I researched some acting classes in the area in Jacksonville, Florida, found an acting class, and went to my very first acting class and kicked butt, fell in love with it again, and then the rest is history.
I did see your YouTube on Ellen DeGeneres. Now,
oh, cool.
I got to ask you, that goofy thing you did with your stomach, is that what got you on the show?
Yes. So Ellen was asking her television viewer fans to submit crazy, wild, unique talent videos. And a bunch of family and friends had contacted me and said, hey, you should submit a video to Ellen DeGeneres because you can do that weird thing with your stomach. So I sent in a video. 10 months later, I was on set on Fox working on a TV show. I get this phone call, and this woman is like, hey, we're from the Ellen DeGeneres show. We just finally watched your video of you doing your sideways belly roll, and we love it. We want you on the show on Wednesday. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Are you serious right now? And she's like, yeah, we watched it about a dozen times. We still can't believe you can do this. And so, yeah, it was so wild. So wild. It came out of nowhere.
How did you learn how to do that?
I've always been able to do an up and down belly roll. And I was showing off at a party in high school, and one of my friends said he could do something weird with his stomach too. So he sucked in really deep, and then he just isolated his abdominal muscles and popped them out, kind of like a T. And it was really interesting, and I was really intrigued, so I tried to do it. A couple hours later, I figured it out, and then I isolated the right side, and then I isolated the left side to try and get that mind-muscle memory connection. I isolated the right side, and then went to the left. It kind of did a roll. And so I went over to some friends and I said, hey, if I really try and make this smooth, does this look cool? And they're like, you're rolling your stomach sideways right now. How are you doing this? And so from then on out, I always entered into like talent competitions and always won them.
Well, it was amazing to watch because you did it very rhythmically. Like there was some music or something playing in the background and your stomach was kind of moving to the music. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, they played some like, stripper music when I was taking my shirt off, and I was like, hey, I just said that I was a naval officer. I can't really be like stripping on the Ellen show. So I kind of played it cool, but I hammed it up a little bit, but I tried to be professional as possible given the circumstances.
Oh, you were still in the Navy then when you were on that show?
Yeah, I was still active duty. I had to go into my commanding officer's office and say, respectfully request permission to take off my shirt on national television for the Ellen DeGeneres show. He was like, what?
They approved that, I guess.
Yeah, I had to get written consent because it was during the work week, so I had to ask permission to take off, and then I made up the hours throughout the rest of the week.
Well, if anybody wants to look at that, it's on YouTube. It's on your website, right? On your channel?
Yeah, my YouTube is Ricky Ryba, RYBA. It's pretty simple.
Okay. You also had a speaking role on American Sniper. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm a part of a organization called Veterans in Film and Television, and it was newly founded right when I moved out to California and was stationed in Point Mugu. And it's military veterans that served our country in any branch that are now in front of or behind the camera somehow, some way. And so about a year later, the organization created a website, and it had a veteran directory where you could search for, I want a Navy actor, or I want, an actor in this age range that was in the Army or something like that. So Clint Eastwood was working on a movie called American Sniper, and his casting office found out about veterans in film and television. They searched through the directory, and there's about 800 actors that are veterans that they searched through, and they called in about a dozen of us. So I got this random phone call from Warner Brothers Casting, and I went in. I did really well, I thought, gave it my best shot, and I didn't hear anything for, I think, maybe 3 months, 2 months, two and a half months. And at that point, I thought, I don't think I got the role, but it was a good opportunity and good learning experience. And then all of a sudden, same thing, I got a call out of nowhere, and they said, hey, remember us? You're our guy. We chose you, and you're going to be on set in 2 weeks. It was so incredible. The entire experience was just unbelievable. If you watch the movie, An American Sniper, I was the helicopter pilot that gets called in for air support. I think it's Bradley Cooper's fourth deployment, and he's surrounded by bad guys on the roof. And he's like, you know what? We just need air support to come in and shoot some missiles at these bad guys. And so I'm coming in as the helicopter pilot, and it's a Cobra helicopter, and there's a really bad sandstorm. I have about like 4 or 5 lines. You can't miss me. It's just like a ginormous shot of my, head taking up the entire screen. And then you see Bradley Cooper, and then, my family was like, I think that was Ricky, and I think that's it. And then I come back on the screen, and they're like, oh my God, he's there again. And then I go away, and then I'm back again. So it was a really neat experience. We shot it up in Santa Clarita, up in the Los Angeles Hills. Having Clint Eastwood come over and review my performance and, take a look at it, give a thumbs up to his assistant director and everybody working around. And then he looked up at me. I'm up in this helicopter, this fake helicopter situation, and he gives me a thumbs up. And I was like, this is the coolest moment of my life.
Yeah, I think I would have been high for a month on that one.
And, it really gave me a lot of fuel, inspiration to really pursue this career. It's like I got this far. I was able to get a taste of the good life, what I'm trying to aspire to be and become and have. And so, I was like, I made it this far. I got it. I did well. I got a thumbs up from Clint Eastwood. Let's do this again.
Yeah, that's got to boost your confidence level. And I know for actors and musicians and any performers, confidence is probably one of the biggest obstacles to get.
Absolutely.
And something like that would just really give you a booster shot, I think. Well, that's great. When you were talking about this and you were talking about your friend that you saw on the DVD, thinking about it, I think the military is probably a great training ground for actors. When you're in the service, you have to act according to your rank, and you would act differently to people of different ranks. And there's this whole regiment. I think the discipline it would be a very good thing for actors training. I think it's, sort of subconsciously a good environment for actors.
You're absolutely right. And that was one of the epiphanies that I had since I've been out in Hollywood is, I thought my time in the military was going to, hurt my chances in the acting world because I'm older and I don't have as much experience as, the guys my age in film and television. And so I thought I was coming in, at a disadvantage. Turns out my military experience, my real world experience, my traveling, like you said, the discipline, showing up on time, being punctual, accountable for my actions, being a team player, all of that sort of kind of ties into what it takes to become a good actor and a successful actor. I had no idea. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm so grateful that I took this really weird roundabout way to Hollywood.
There are people out there that are just super talented, but they don't have that discipline instilled in them. And I've seen this often where they have a lot of trouble because they think they can just make it based on their talent alone. And it really doesn't work that way. People who are potentially less talented will be successful because they work twice as hard. Like you said, they showed up on time. They knew their lines. They were ready to go. These other people, they just think, well, I'm just so good. And I think the military would kind of knock that ego out of you pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, they call it show business for a reason. It takes the show portion and it also takes the business portion to be successful. Exactly. And a lot of times actors focus on the show part and they don't realize that this is also a business. You need to be organized and disciplined. I'm the CEO of my own company. My product is me.
Right.
And I need to be realistic with my strengths and my weaknesses and my training, my experience, what I'm bringing to the table. I'm extremely organized and I'm methodic and strategic with trying to take over Hollywood. It's like a military mission, Operation Hollywood Takeover.
All right. So tell us about the movie 10,000 Miles.
Yeah. So 10,000 Miles is a short film that I recently shot in February and it premiered in June. And it's based off a true story that really happened to my director, Nathan Ellis. And he wanted to recreate this story and get it out there and also kind of showcase it, but also give hope to some of the sailors and families and soldiers that are kind of going through the same thing. When he was on deployment, he was up in a helicopter waiting to rescue some special forces guys, and his boss told him not to go, and he was like, they need our help now. So he went and rescued these guys. They all made it out alive, but his left gunner completely froze and didn't help return fire or protect them. And so when they landed, he was like, what the heck is going on, man? And he's like, I'm sorry, sir, but, my wife filed for divorce and I'm just completely, lost in that mindset or whatever. And he was like, it doesn't matter. Our lives were put at risk. We could have died because you didn't help us. And, the time that we needed you the most, like you weren't there for us. It's unacceptable. And so he flipped out on him, and then his boss ripped him apart for breaking orders, but at the same time he got awarded some medals for his bravery because he made the best decision. He had the most intel at the time, and so he rescued all these guys, and that was really an important dynamic where he had to go against orders because he felt he had to do what was right. When he was finished talking with his soldier, he realized that his relationship with his wife was kind of at risk because he hasn't heard from her in a while either. And so he sent her another email, hadn't heard from her in a couple of weeks. And so he's like, something's fishy, something's not right. And he went and checked up on her Facebook account, logged into her own Facebook account, and realized that she was sleeping with some other guy. And he was in complete shock and disbelief. And now, not only is his soldier going through a divorce, but he just found out his wife's cheating on him, and now he's going through this dynamic. So when he got home, he was trying to see if things could be repaired and fixed, and it's just they really kind of delve into that dynamic and struggle of real life situations that happen with the military, unfortunately, when you deploy for 7 months, a year. Also, at the same time, his soldier is kind of going in a downward spiral, and they haven't heard from him in a couple of days. So he goes over to his house to check on him, and he can't find him. The place is trashed. There's alcohol and pill bottles everywhere, and it's all a very realistic scenario and something that really happened to Nate. And he, wanted to capture this moment, and also, towards the end of the film, he leaves the message that, like, you're not alone and other people are going through struggles, but, no matter what, no matter how bad it is, you're not alone. And, you shouldn't think about doing anything crazy or something you might regret, like taking your own life. At the very last clip, it says, every single day, 22 veterans commit suicide. That's a known statistic in our country. There are so many family members and friends that will love you and support you and be there for you no matter how bad it gets. And remember that, and don't take your life. Here's the hotline to call, the Veteran Suicide Hotline if you need help. It was a powerful film. It was a true story, and it's also a powerful message, and it's a helpful message at the end of the day, which I was really grateful to be a part of.
Now, this is already premiered, right?
Yeah, so we had the premiere in June, but right now our plan is to enter it into all these major film festivals across the country and some globally. The big ones like Tribeca, Sundance, South by Southwest, the GI Film Festival, which is the biggest military film festival in our country, and see how it goes. But we won't release the film to the public until after we're done our rounds in the film festival circuit.
You've got a clip or a website here for Vimeo. Is that this film?
Say again?
I said there's a website here, like a link. That's not for this film, then.
Oh, no, there is. It's a teaser trailer.
Oh,
so,
it's a trailer. Okay. All right. I got you.
Yeah, it's like a 1.5-minute trailer that 2 days after we were done filming, the director uploaded all of the footage and gave it to the editor, and the editor was so excited about what he saw. He was so motivated that he just like quickly grabbed some scenes, put it all together, threw some cool music behind it, and it's a teaser trailer.
Gotcha.
And just the teaser trailer alone, I was like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, I think this might be a really amazing short film. Like this, the quality, the camera that we used was an Alexa. The lenses that we used were like $35,000 a piece. We had great audio, great acting performances. The crew and the cast were incredible. I mean, it really was like one of the best projects I've ever worked on for a low budget short film, and I'm really proud of it.
What are you working on right at the moment? Got anything you're doing other than this wedding? I know you're at your sister's wedding is today.
Yeah, I'm about an hour away from my sister having her wedding, and she asked me to be the wedding officiant. This is my third time being a wedding officiant. My cousin had asked me to be the wedding officiant for her marriage. And then I was, going around LA and Hollywood telling everybody that I was going to marry my cousin in a joking way. And through networking and friends, I had come across a woman named Kimber Eastwood, who is Clint Eastwood's oldest daughter.
Oh.
And I became friends with her and acquaintances, and she asked me to be her wedding officiant for her second marriage. So I got to marry Kimber Eastwood and her new husband, and Clint Eastwood was there, and it was a really neat experience. And now my sister's getting married, and she asked me to be the wedding officiant. And so these are my duties that I'm about to perform in about an hour.
Now, did he remember you from American Sniper when he was at the wedding?
We didn't have like a lot of face-to-face interaction. I was up on a 20-foot platform inside of a helicopter. So, there wasn't a lot of like intimate, acting, training, performance directing from Clint Eastwood. And at the same time, I was there for his daughter on a professional level to be the wedding officiant. I wasn't there to try and weasel my way into a better acting career,
You don't want to just ignore her and schmooze all night with Clint.
Exactly. I felt like that would be really unprofessional and immature. And I said, you know what, I'm going to handle this the right way. I'm here for Kimber. I'm here for her husband. I had some small interaction with Clint Eastwood, but I kept it cool. And, I'm sure his daughter talked to him later and was like, hey, did you know he was actually on your movie?
How long ago was the movie before the wedding? What was the time gap?
Probably about 6 months.
Oh, that's still pretty fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it had been a couple of years.
I had a helicopter helmet on.
Oh.
I was 20 feet up on that platform and that helicopter skeleton.
Did you have a visor in the front of the helmet?
Yeah, when they asked me to, start filming, and I had kept my dark visor up, and because I wanted everyone to see my face. I wanted my family to see my face. And the military tech advisor came over and he was like, hey man, sorry, but you got to put the visor down. And I'm like, why? And he's like, you're supposed to be in the middle of Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's in the middle of the bright day. And he's like, realistically, they would definitely have their sun visor down. And I was like, okay. So I was really bummed out. My grandmother was really upset. She was like, why couldn't I see your face? Why didn't you just put the visor up? I'm like, I tried, Grandma.
You could have put a sticker on the visor that says, it's me.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky, listen, I don't want to keep you from the wedding, and I think we've covered all of your points. Thank you so much for taking time to come onto the show. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad
thank you so much for having me. It was really nice speaking with you.
Finally hooked up. Do you have a website that you want to tell people that they can come and look at you and see what you're doing and all that?
Yes, of course. Everything is filtered through my personal website. It's rickyryba.com. My name is spelled RICKYRYBA. I've got everything on there. My headshots, my resume, my demo reels, my contact info, all that stuff.
Okay, Ricky. Well, good luck. Good luck with the wedding.
Thank you very much, Douglas. It was nice speaking with you.
Well, that's about all the time we've got for the show today. I want to thank my special guests, Neville Johnson, Ricky Ryba, and Whitney Ty for the music. This is Douglas Coleman saying goodbye.